You know, for as long as we've been human, we've looked up at the moon and dreamed about what it would be like to live there. Well, that science fiction dream, it's starting to look a lot like an engineering project. Right now, the actual blueprint for humanity's first home off-world is being grafted, and we're going to break down exactly what it's going to take. So, let's start with the big one. What does it actually take to build a city on the moon? And I mean, that's a massive question, isn't it? We're not just talking about planting a flag and coming home. This is about creating a place where people can survive and even thrive in one of the most hostile environments we've ever encountered. The scale of the challenge is just enormous, but the plan to get it done, well, it can be broken down.
And it all starts with a blueprint. For us, right now, that blueprint is NASA's Artemis program. This isn't just NASA, though. It's a huge collaboration with partners all over the world and a ton of private companies. Together, they're laying the foundation for a permanent human presence on the moon. And this whole incredible plan really rests on three main pillars. So let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. You can't live on the moon without a place to live in. And a lunar home, it's got to be way more than just a shelter. It has to be a fortress, a personal little biosphere that protects you from an unbelievably harsh environment. This slide really lays it all out, right? On one side, you have all the things that are trying to kill you. You've got temperature swings of 300 degrees Celsius, constant cosmic radiation bombarding the surface, tiny meteorites hitting like little bullets, and that super fine, razor-sharp lunar dust that gets into everything. And then, on the other side, you have the brilliant engineering solutions, from tough, pressurized modules to literally using the moon's own soil, the regolith, as a radiation shield. And you know, there isn't just one single idea on the table. There are a ton of different concepts being worked on right now. NASA's planning its foundational base camp down at the South Pole. At the same time, the HALO module for the Gateway space station is going to test out deep space living while orbiting the moon. People are working on 3D printing entire domes using that lunar soil I mentioned. Even SpaceX is designing its Starship so the lander itself can double as your first house on the moon. It's a truly global effort.
And listen, this isn't all just theory. In 2025, a really key piece of tech called the electrodynamic dust shield was successfully tested. You can almost think of it like a little force field. It uses static electricity to actively push away that destructive lunar dust. This is an absolute game changer for keeping solar panels clean and making sure all the equipment and airlocks keep working for the long haul.
Okay, so we've got shelter. That's pillar number one. But you can't just keep shipping everything from Earth. A rocket launch is expensive, and that's just not sustainable. So the second pillar for a real lunar settlement is learning how to live off the land. And this is where you're going to hear this acronym a lot, ISRU. It stands for In-Situ Resource Utilization, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to use what's already there. It's about collecting, processing, and using materials we find on the moon to make critical supplies like water, oxygen, and even rocket fuel. This idea right here is the key to breaking our dependence on Earth. So why is ISRU so important? Well, this number says it all. If we can produce our own water, air, and rocket fuel right there on the moon, we could potentially slash mission costs by an absolutely staggering 90%. This is the thing that makes a permanent base go from a dream to something that's actually economically possible. And again, this isn't sci-fi. The Prime 1 mission in 2025 already confirmed that there is accessible water ice tucked away in those permanently shadowed craters near the lunar poles. The process is actually kind of elegant. You mine the ice, then you use solar panels to power electrolysis, which splits the water, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen. You store the oxygen for breathing, and you store both for rocket propellant. And just like that, you're making air and fuel from moon dirt. This whole philosophy of using every last resource extends to life support too. The systems, known as ECLSS, are being designed to be ridiculously efficient. I mean, building on the tech that's been perfected on the International Space Station, these new systems can recover 98% of the water from the moisture in the air and even from astronauts' urine. It creates a nearly closed-loop system, a tiny, sustainable biosphere hundreds of thousands of miles from home. Now, to run all of this amazing technology, the habitats, the resource plants, the life support, you need two more things. You need a ton of power, and you need a way to get around. And that's our third pillar, the core engineering that makes everything else possible. The power strategy is really interesting. It has to be layered, so you'll have the Gateway station beaming some power down, and you'll have huge solar arrays providing the main power load. But here's the problem. What do you do during the lunar night, which lasts for 14 Earth days? The sun's gone. Well, the solution is pretty incredible. Small, safe fission reactors that can provide constant, reliable power no matter what.
And of course, you've got to be able to move around. The new Lunar Terrain Vehicle, or LTV, is so much more than the little moon buggy from the Apollo missions. Think of this thing as a mobile base, designed to let astronaut crews go out on missions to explore, look for resources, and set up new experiments for up to 45 days at a time.
So, we've got the plans for shelter, for using resources, and for the power and infrastructure to run it all. This brings us right back to that huge central question. With all this tech being built, how close are we, really? When can we actually move in? All right, here it is. Here's the projected roadmap. The next giant leap is Artemis 3, currently planned for mid-2027. That's the mission that will put humans back on the lunar surface for the first time in over 50 years. A few years after that, around 2030, Artemis 5 is scheduled to deliver the very first permanent habitat modules. Now, if that timeline holds, a fully operational, continuously crewed lunar base becomes a very realistic possibility by 2035.
But let's be real, it is not a done deal. There are still some pretty big hurdles to clear. Securing consistent long-term funding from governments and private partners is always the big one. There's also a massive difference between a small tech demo and running an industrial-level factory to make oxygen. And maybe most important of all, every single one of these systems has to be hyper-reliable and able to work flawlessly for years and years in that brutal lunar environment. But you know what? The momentum is undeniable. The tech is being proven out, the international partners are on board, and the blueprint is clearer today than it has ever been in human history. We're really moving from the question of if we can do this to how we're going to do it. Humanity's next home is just waiting for us, a quick 3-day trip away. So the real question isn't whether we can do it anymore, it's what are we going to build when we get there?